Let's get it!
Broadcasting to you from a little grass shack in the middle of the Pacific.
Live in the place to be.
Well, they're actually in the Bay Area.
Yeah!
But they are the premier Pacifica show that shines a spotlight on positive Pacific Islanders.
You listening to the sound.
Role models coming brown every Thursday night at 6.
East to west, we getting hurt.
Brought to you by Pacifica by Design. It's the iconic FICA podcast with your hosts, Naki and Carl.
What's up, Naki?
What's up?
What a week. What
Whew.
a week.
What a big hit.
Man.
We got hit everywhere.
If you're Gen X, you felt this week.
This was not a good week.
Felt this week, regardless of how you feel about some of the people, because we'll talk about that. But man, we're going to talk about people passing away, specifically the beloved George Fiji Vicoso,
The icon, the legend,
the one and only.
one and only. They're like,
don't even
oh my
try
God.
to duplicate his voice. We'll talk about that. That is
Crazy.
there. Max Holloway retained the baddest MFer belt in the UFC. Almost said WWE because I got the other person on my mind.
Nice.
This past weekend, we got community announcements, and Naki has landed the PI clinician Jason Finau, and he is the back half. So we've got to get our topics done because we in the back half, and he has some amazing information to share. We were lucky enough to see him.
Oh my God. His presentation was so badass. The PI clinician, Pacifica Mental Health Conference happened this year. Was it a couple of months ago? And
It was in June.
It was in June. Okay. There you go. It was in June in Sacramento. And if you didn't make it to the conference, you missed amazing speakers. Jason was one of them. And we're going to talk about it, but he's coming up in the second half. This week has been crazy, like crazy.
I'm afraid to stay. So there's points where I'm like, I don't want to get back on my news feed because I'm like,
Right.
well, what am I going to hear next?
Yeah. I think all day, like I went riding around today, like ran a quick errand after work. And I was, of course, playing Fiji in my car all day. And then you go on when I got on my news feed, that's all I seen was Fiji it was so sad, but it was so, it was kind of beautiful to see all the lives that he inspired, the generations. It wasn't just one like as young as, I don't know, 5 to as old as 80, right? You knew who Fiji was, his music and everything. But before we get
30 plus years. So we'll definitely talk about Fiji and the impact that he had with the Pacific Islander community around the world, around the globe.
Around the world. But
I think we started it off with Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Malcolm Jamal Warner. We started off this week with him
on the 20th.
Yeah, and again, Gen X, if you don't know who Malcolm Jamal Warner is, he was Theo Huxtable from The Cosby Show. He was the only son that, they had on the show, but he was on he was on The Resident. He was on a comedy show, and he just was a really good actor. I just when I seen him in shows and stuff, I only could think of Theo, right?
Yeah,
I only think of Theo.
And for the younger generation, before Bill Cosby was known for what Bill Cosby
what he was, yeah. So
he was the star, the dad,
right.
Yeah, on one of the highest rated sitcoms of the 80s and 90s. So that was before all the drama and the
and not to take away from his death, we don't want to bring that up, but I know that, I mean, he's like, if you're Gen X, you know who Theo Huxtable, you know who Malcolm Jamal Warner was. But also during like one of the episodes, Denise sewed him
Mhm.
a shirt for, her school project, but he was going out on a date and wanted to impress a girl and gave Denise like this supposedly designer shirt, and she sewed this mess that you see here on the top. Um, but then, like, without even thinking, like, Anthony Mackie, who's the actor on the bottom, he went on Jimmy Kimmel, and this is, like, within the year, I wanna say. He went on Jimmy Kimmel, and people were like, "Why would you wear that shirt? It's so, ugly," and but right when I seen the shirt, I
Mhm.
knew that it was the
Theo
Theo
shirt.
Huxtable. It was the Theo shirt, and so, like, but people were going in on him, and I think they must have been a lot younger, and didn't know anything about Theo Huxtable, so he didn't do this this was, like, I wanna say within the last couple of years, he went on
The
Jimmy
shirt
Kimmel.
looks horrible. That's the point. It's supposed to look
Horrible,
horrible.
horrible.
But I guess if you didn't know the punchline, right? You would
Right,
look at that shirt and go, "What in the hell is he
right,
wearing?" Because
right.
that shirt's bad.
Yeah, it's bad, but because Anthony Mackie wore it, it's like iconic shirt and just you had to know. You just had to know. You just put
It's
it that way.
immortalized.
It's immortalized. So I'm sure now there's gonna be more people wearing this type of shirt that Denise Huxtable supposedly sewed. So rest in peace to him. He was on vacation with his family and unfortunately drowned while on vacation. And so it's so sad. Prayers to his family and his friends and really everyone that was, if you watched the Huxtables, then you know.
Yeah, that's a iconic show, and so
Yeah.
we were talking about this earlier, before the show, really,
Mhm.
because you start looking at this from a Gen X standpoint.
Mhm.
These aren't like, these are people our age.
Right.
'Cause there's people that passed away in their 70s, right?
Right, right.
But that hits different than somebody who's, you know, born
Mhm.
around the time that we were born. Like,
Yeah.
it's so weird to see, people from our generation pass on.
Pass on, pass on. So it was kinda a sad week, but, how was your week besides all this crazy stuff that's going on while you're
Um, it was good. It was, I
mhm,
mean, works a lot. I think that, what you caught for I don't know, 5, 6 months, I'm starting to carry weight beyond just my normal role.
mhm,
So, finding time to, um, do things that I would normally do, like, we got a chance to work on some of our audio stuff at your house
right,
yesterday, right?
right, mhm,
Before, that would be like, "Oh, yeah, I'll just," like, but that was a moment where I'm like, "Man, some work's gonna pile up."
yeah,
All those
I
things that
can't, yeah,
yeah. So, but finding time to balance it out
mhm,
is important to me, so I'm making sure that I'm taking time for myself, doing things that I love, like going for walks, staring at clouds, meeting up with friends, coming, hang out with you yesterday, uh,
mhm.
and see my sunga,
Oh, yeah,
and yeah, so
sure,
even in these times where I'm, like, crazy busy and sometimes I feel overwhelmed, it's like I gotta make sure that I'm putting it in perspective, like, it's work. It's not that serious.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, that's my week. How about you?
It's good. It was okay. I just have a lot of stuff going on in the background, um, so, I'm coping, but, with all these deaths that are happening this week will be Auntie John, Queen of the Whole Wide World, celebration of life services that are happening the 26th, 27th, and 28th. The 26th, it'll be at Samoan Community Development Center in San Francisco just to accommodate the hundreds of people that will be attending. And so SCDC is opening up their doors on Saturday to celebrate Auntie John's life. And then, of course, the Leo on Sunday and then the burial on Monday. So, lots of that going on. Lots of that going on.
It's in that theme of what we're talking about,
Mhm. Mhm.
of
Mhm.
the end of lives, and it's
Yeah.
kinda in our face this last 7 to 10 days. It's like, goodness,
Yeah.
make
And
sure we
learning
do more
to
things. Do the
learning.
things you're supposed to be doing that you wanna be doing because we
Yeah,
don't ever know when our date is.
just do it. Just do it. I'm like, you want it, you're thinking of doing something, go do
Mhm,
it. Just go
mhm.
do it. That's the attitude that I've been taking recently. Like, just do it. Just
Yeah.
eat it.
Sometimes tomorrow doesn't
Just eat
come,
it. Yes,
right?
tomorrow
So,
doesn't come.
get it
Just eat
done.
it. It's okay. So then also, this week, um, Ozzy Osbourne,
Oh my gosh.
passed away at the age of 76. Was he with Black Sabbath?
He was originally a Black Sabbath, and then
Mhm.
he
Oh,
went on
you're
a solo
you're
career. Um, and so I always think about with Ozzy Osbourne, there were groups that got sober, right?
Mhm.
And they didn't want to tour with certain groups, like Guns N' Roses, for example. There was a band that got sober. They went on tour with Guns N' Roses, and they're like, "Nah, nah, we can't be on
We
tour with
can't
them
wait.
because they're
Yeah.
buck wild. It's going to hurt our sobriety." So
Yeah.
there are same people have gone and shared time with Ozzy Osbourne and
Uh-huh.
said, "Oh, no, no, like he." Somebody told, I think it was Van Halen. I don't know. Somebody told the story of there was ants and they ran out of drugs and Ozzy Osbourne got down on the ground and snorted a line of ants because they
Eek.
didn't have any coke. You have, I mean, just the stories are long of the craziness that Ozzy Osbourne was, and I always think of like I remember on MTV they had what was his name, Marilyn Manson, that
Mhm.
crazy, like he was supposed to be crazy, and they had him literally running away from Ozzy, calling for Sharon, Ozzy's wife, like calling for mom, like Sharon, help me, because one acted crazy and Ozzy was actually crazy.
Yeah.
So, huge loss, not just to the metal, but again, if you're Gen X, right?
Yeah.
You listen to Crazy Train or Black Sabbath or and even if you're not a metal fan, Crazy Train was
Yeah.
kinda universal. Like, even if you didn't like metal, you probably heard the song some of his songs.
I
So,
didn't hear any of his I don't know any of his songs, but I knew who he was, and only because of the reality show. I mean, I knew a little bit about him, but
that was
then
it. That
they
was it.
had the reality show.
That's where they had Marilyn Manson, like, freaking out because,
Yeah.
"No, you just play crazy on television. Ozzy's actually crazy."
Yeah, that's the only that I knew. I seen pictures of him when I was younger. I didn't listen to his music. It just wasn't my thing. And then, the reality show happened, and then I was like, "Oh, I like him." He was like,
He's
"I like
crazy.
him," and Sharon. So that's how I learned more about him. So rest in peace to him. His family, they're all in, entertainment. So his wife was a host on a talk show, and I think his kids are still in entertainment. But
I think
yeah,
she was his manager, like, she was the one trying to keep everything
mm,
happening for him
yeah,
in his career at that ti and, when he was extremely popular, but yeah, the reality show became as big from an entertainment perspective as, he was in the '80s.
yes, yes. So yeah, so Ozzy Osbourne, he was 76 years old. So he lived a long, long life.
That's a lot
Um,
different than Theo Huxtable or
uh-huh.
you know what I mean? When
I
you
think
have
how old
people
was Theo? 54? Well,
54,
Malcolm
almost
Jamal
55.
Warner,
Right.
54, 55. That's still young, that's still young. And
Well, that was
then
the way it used to be, right? You when you were 20, you were like, "30's old," and then
yes.
you get 28, 29, you're like, "Nah, 30's not old,
No, it's
40's
not
old."
that.
Then you
40's
get to
old.
40 and you keep
You
pushing
keep
it out there,
yeah,
but
every 10 years, you keep pushing it back. So, um, 76 is he lived a long life.
he
So,
lived a full
yeah.
life.
Mhm,
Yeah,
mhm.
he definitely lived a full,
Full
wild
life.
life.
Yeah, go Google him. Go Google him. He crazy. And then, of course, today we find out that Hulk Hogan passed away, and I don't know all the controversies, but I do know that he was a WWE wrestler, and that, because of one of the Rocky shows, Rocky Balboa,
Yeah,
not Rocky and the Squirrel or whatever, but,
Rocky
uh,
3.
Rocky 3, because he came on and in my mind, that I think that that's how wrestling got so big and popular, was because Hulk Hogan was in the movie, Rocky 3. So
He
that's
did,
all I know.
so he was in, WrestleMania 1, and he was, um Mr. T was his partner.
Mhm.
Cyndi Lauper was involved with
Yeah.
that, like, it was part of that bringing wrestling into the mainstream. Like,
Right,
he was the
right.
big name, big attraction when it became mainstream, so, yeah, he
Yes.
did a lot for wrestling, caught some of that controversy at the end, ended up getting terminated from the WWE, but, yeah, I mean, that's again, Gen X.
Gen
This
X,
is
Gen
you.
X. So, that's all I know him from, is wrestling and the WrestleManiacs and the, what is it? Hulk Hogan, whatever.
The
Um,
Hulkamaniacs.
Hulkamaniacs. So that's all I know about him, but he passed away today. So, it's just been a busy week for entertainment and the really Gen X. So, um, what else? What else? What else? That's it for, but and then
The big one.
the big one, the really, really hit home for everyone, is Fiji passed away yesterday, at the age of 55.
Mm.
And he is why island reggae got so huge. He started off in Hawaii. Well, you know more about his career because you were in Hawaii when he was starting to blow up.
Yeah, there's I was in Hawaii, 93, 4, 5, 6, so right in the middle of it, and, I remember him making a name for himself before he was releasing records, probably
Mhm.
93, 94, um, and I think I sent you a clip of him in 93
Oh, yeah, he looked
recently.
totally different,
In the
like
last couple days, I sent this is before he passed. I sent it
yes.
to Naki, and I was like, "This is the guy I remember from back on the music scene in Hawaii
Yeah.
in 93, 94." Um, and just to see the journey
Mhm.
from, and he talked about that in some of his interviews, that Hawaii was the first place to accept him for his music,
Yeah.
and really embrace him, so Hawaii held a special place in his heart. And then I remember that first big album hit,
Yeah.
and then he was, off to stardom. But I do remember seeing him at like the Nahoku Hano Hano Awards before he was releasing albums, before
Mhm.
he eventually went on to win the 1998 Nahoku Hano Hano Awards for the Performer of the Year
That's
um,
awesome.
in '98. But in '93, he was just making his bones, be doing the circuit, and to see him go as far as he did, what an iconic voice.
Oh my
That
gosh.
nobody's gonna duplicate the voice.
Cannot. You can try, but you just cannot. He is a legend. He will forever his music will forever stand alone. Just he opened the doors for so many artists, to hit the scene. He collaborated with so many artists, which says a lot about him, um, of him collaborating. I pretty much with, I think, almost everyone that I can think of.
Oh, yeah.
Tanel, Drew
It was
DZ,
almost like
Maoli,
on
yeah, J Boog,
island reggae scene, it was like you hadn't made it until you did a duet
right,
with
with
Fiji. Like,
Fiji.
once you did the duet with the man, then you're like,
Yeah,
"Okay, yeah, I've arrived because
yes,
I did that's the kind of the marker." But for so long, he was the
so
standard.
long. He was,
So
yes.
long, decades, he was the standard.
Yeah, and, I think all through social media to yesterday and today was just everything was Fiji. Everything was Fiji. People were making tributes, or, creating tributes to Fiji, like, get young generations to, as old as me, you know what I mean? It's just he hit across the board from, all ages and across the ocean. I think the first time I heard Fiji was, man, I wanna say 93, 94. I was living in Daly City. Me and Mo were living in Daly City, and I was like, "Who is this guy?" And they were like, "Fiji," and I was like, "Oh my god, there's a Pacific Islander," And so it was just so awesome, and then, of course, we continued to play his music in the car. We were so proud to be PI because of, him breaking out in the 90s and listening to yes, Fiji is the greatest of all times. And so, we were just so proud to hear one of our folks, um, um, his record, his album, his everything, and people were playing it from all across the Pacific.
Mhm.
Whether you were Samoan, you were Chamorro, you were, Fijian, you were Tongan, like whatever island you came from, you knew who Fiji was. You knew his music, I mean, he's just iconic. It was, and he lived an amazing life. And I'm so sad to see that he's gone but that his music will carry on forever, like forever.
He's one of those that when you hear a song come on, you're like, "Oh,
Mhm.
yeah, I know all the words to this
You
one."
know all the
And
words.
then
Like,
you're like, "Oh, I think that's probably" you listen to a couple and you're like, "That's" in my mind, I'm like,
mhm,
I don't know that I know a whole bu" and then another one comes on, I'm like, "Oh, yep, I know this one, I know that
right.
one." There's so many
Right.
songs.
I mean, and he sang in Samoan, he sang in Tongan, he sang Fijian. I
Fijian.
mean, he sang in almost every Pacific Islander language. And like, "Hey Girl," half of the song is in Tongan, and I know all the words. I don't know what I'm saying, but I know
He's
all the
just
words.
singing.
You know what I mean? I know all the words. I know we all know all the words to Fiji's songs. So um, iconic, like, r he's such
Look at
like,
that,
here he is,
500,000,000 digital
500,000,000. Here he is with Maoli,
and
like,
that's a
it's
tribute to, um, kinda the I look at Maoli and as the group that's stepping a little bit outside of
mhm,
the traditional kind of island reggae music, like,
mhm,
they'll cover country, you know what I mean? And it's a different look, and I feel like, you could see the piece of that in Fiji's career
mhm,
where he was like, "I'm gonna do my own thing. I'm gonna do my thing." Um, and so to see them perform together, I was kinda like,
right,
I can see the footprints that
right,
Mahalo is evolving into.
right,
That's his
brother
birthday party was just in May, right? It
yes.
was May of this year.
He had a show in Fiji. Yes, 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 beach party. Brother Lo is on. And then, thank you for tuning in. We're just, of course, we're talking about Fiji like everyone else. Such a huge, huge loss to the Pacifica community. This is, I mean, I can't even imagine like his services, his celebration of life is. I don't know how you're going to control that crowd. I just don't know how. Um, it's just going to be. I mean, and remembering him is all beautiful memories, like, Mena posted a picture of him at Island Reggae Festival
That she
where
took.
that
It
she
looks
took.
like it looks
Yeah.
like one of those you'd see, oh, some professional named Timena
Yeah.
took the picture, it's amazing.
Yes, and, she posted a picture from Island Reggae Festival with, D-Boy, Danny O.C. Perez, Island Reggae Festival. He also passed, but we had the honor of, getting back there and getting to meet Fiji and getting to meet a lot of people. But, Mena, he's iconic. So Mena
We
was
got
really
that I
juiced.
remember we were at
She
the
was
Island
really
Reggae
juiced to meet
Festival, and we
him.
were at we were at a different stage, and
Uh-huh.
you got a picture and you're like, "Look," and it was Mena and
Mena
Fiji.
and Fiji. I know. She was so excited. She's so excited. And then to be able to, Mena's a photographer, videographer, so she's been able to see him several times, performing because of her occupation, of her occupation. So, yeah,
I
100%.
remember working at Tower Records and seeing this CD
Mhm.
cover, and being like, "Look,
Yes.
there's a Pacific Islander making it." big in
Yes.
sales.
Malo is so right. Every family
Mhm.
reunion, his songs are playing. Every family and community function, most definitely. That's 100% true. Such a huge loss, but I don't have the words because it's just everyone has been posting and talking about the huge loss. So I just I'm at a loss for words. I'm at a loss for words. What do you say? He was a legend. He truly will be missed. His music will carry on forever, for
Yeah,
generations and generations.
I feel like like how I felt when, Is Brother
Mhm,
Is when he passed away was like, man,
mhm.
that's a once and ever. Like,
Yeah.
there may be artists that sell more. There may be artists that, do other things, but
Mhm.
they won't be duplicated.
No, never, ever. I mean, I could say that 100%. Like, I 100%. He's not gonna be duplicated, but
Mhm.
I am 100% sure that his music will live forever, ever. Like, I'll be gone and his music is still going.
Yep.
I'll be gone and his music will still be going. So, it's been such an honor to have been in spaces that he's been. We're in awe of his music. So, yeah, rest in peace, um, to George Vicoso,
Long live
Fiji.
the GOAT.
Yes, yes, yes. We have our community announcements, and then we have Jason coming up next. We're so excited.
All right,
All
here we go.
right.
Tasi and APRI present Box Fit Fun with Will Shaw. It's been running since May 11th, and it's
Mm,
got a few weeks left. So hop in there. 11 to 15-year-olds are 1 to 2:30, and then the older kids are 3 to
mhm.
4:30. Click on the link on the flyer to register.
Yes, yes. I'm lost. There you go. Our beloved Auntie John, Aisha, and a celebration of life service is happening this Saturday, July 26th, from 2 p.m. to 5 p.m. at the Samoan Community Development Center at 2055 Sunnydale Avenue in San Francisco. The queen of the whole wide world was a huge staple in the Bay Area. Her work with Pacific Islander Youth Alliance at SCDC will always be remembered and cherished. Long live the queen.
Another queen just checked in. Hi, NT. The Creative Pacific Fashion Show is happening July 31st to August 2nd in Utah. As you know, the founder of Alu was killed last month during the No Kings protest, and his team's continuing the fashion show as you would want. In his honor, please follow Creative Pacific on Instagram for all the latest and greatest.
Awesome. Dominguez Samoan Congregational Christian Church, Ifaka'asa, presents Punialawa'a USA Tour 2025, beginning August 2nd in Los Angeles. Don't miss your chance to catch them at a city near you. Limited tickets per venue, and proceeds will benefit the building fund for the Dominguez Samoan Church. Scan the QR code for more information.
Gonna be big. A lot of cities there.
Crazy. Yeah.
Polyfest 2025 tickets are on sale now. Pacific Northwest, this is you. The ultimate celebration of Polynesian culture is back, bigger than ever before. This year, it's going to be in the Renton Memorial Stadium in the main parking lot on August 16th. You can expect amazing live performances, of course, delicious island food, cultural vendors, and family fun. Grab your tickets now at thepolyfest.com before they sell out.
Awesome. All My Uso's 10th annual Family Day Barbecue is August 16th. It is a special event dedicated to celebrating community and honoring the memory of the late founder, JT Mauia. Free health screenings, free people, live performances, music, free lunch as supplies last, raffles, family games, resources, and so much more. Feel Good Cuts will be there giving free haircuts to kids that are starting school. Bring your family and friends for a day of fun, connection, and let's make new memories together. Leave the drama at home.
As always, leave the
Mhm.
drama at home. Rhythmic Catalyst has done it again. They present Josh Tatofi on September 4th at the Center for the Performing Arts in San Jose. Special guest Kenya and everyone's favorite tag team MC's Western Conference Get your tickets now at joshtatofimusic.com.
Starting September 4th, all my usos will host monthly Talanoanga sessions on the first Thursday of each month. These sessions offer a space to break silences, openly discuss struggles, and begin healing. Rooted in Pacific Islander values, Amu recognizes that while strength is honored, it's also okay to not be okay. Healing looks different for everyone, and at all my usos, every emotion is valid in this judgment-free zone. These sessions are free. We love free, open to all ages, and includes dinner. No commitment required, just your presence. Space is limited, so register today through the link in our bio.
Mental
There-
health. It almost segues right into our guest that's coming up
Yes.
after our community announcements. Last but not least, the 2025 for $25 PBD campaign still going on. Feel free to scan the QR code to donate. Thank you to everyone who has donated this far. We appreciate your contribution. Tough time to ask for money. So if $25 doesn't work,
Yeah.
$2.50, $250,000, whatever you want, whatever works for you. We appreciate everybody who donates.
Awesome. Those are our community announcements. So, what you've all been waiting for, because you're tired of seeing our face, the most famous clinician in the world, if you didn't know, Jason Finau is a licensed clinician, social worker, passionate mental health advocate, and co founder of the Black Pacific Alliance. Welcome, Jason. Thank you for joining us this evening. Where
Thank you
did
all
we
so much for
go?
having me. I feel so honored.
Oh my
Can you hear me
God.
okay?
Yes, we
Absolutely.
can. We can. Thank you I know how crazy busy you are, and so I appreciate your time. We met, well, I've been following you for a while, but we met at the Pacifica Mental Health conference. And so, I mean, the work that you're doing for communities everywhere, we definitely want to highlight that. But is there anything that we miss, or can you tell us a little bit about yourself for people who've been living under a rock?
Yeah, so I am, again, my name is Jason. I'm a licensed clinical social worker based here in San Francisco, California. I am of both Black and Samoan descent. My mother's side of the family is from American Samoa, the island of Tutuila, from the villages of Nua Masitanga. And was, I feel like I grew up primarily in the Samoan community, and so I have a very strong connection to and identity with our community. And a lot of the work that I've been doing with the PI clinicians, just even getting connected with the PI clinicians who, after 5 years, have that amazing, just like mind blowing conference, that Pacifica Mental Health Conference, was just, I couldn't have imagined this for myself, for like Jason, who was like 20 years old and trying to figure out what to do with his life in college, or, Jason who was 10 years old and was like trying to figure out just life in general and like this journey that we're all on together. And so, it's definitely been a wild ride, and I think that we have so much more to do, and a lot to look forward to.
So true, so true. I love it. And I think one of the things that we always highlight, our community, is because representation is so important for not only our kids, but for me, for all generations, to see people that look like us in different roles other than actors and sports, which is amazing. That is amazing as well. But we also
Mhm.
want to highlight, education and clinicians and entrepreneurs. How is this so? How did this affect your family, or were they even tripping that you're going to, or has education been in your family, or are you the first to go? Like, tell us a little bit about that.
Um, Definitely first one of my generation of first cousins.
Mm.
There's about 30 plus of us, and first one to graduate from college and to even go back and get my master's degree, which I have in social work. But my mom was a very strong proponent for education, drilled that into me from, I feel like, probably from when I was in the crib. And so education's always been number one for her. She's like, no matter what you do in this world, you have to do it with a degree. And then when I got that bachelor's degree in sociology from the California State University of San Marcos, after getting my associate's degree in behavioral health sciences from Miracosta Community College in Oceanside. She was all like, "Okay, now you have those two things. When is the master's coming?" And I was like, "Can I take a breather for a second? I just I just want to live my life for a minute and like enjoy some of the fruits of my labor." And so I did end up going back for my master's in New York. Um, and I did that like a few years after my bachelor's degree. And then as soon as I finished that, I got my master's in social work from New York University. After I finished that, the first thing she said was, "Okay, so when is the PhD?" And I was like, that's 100% a space where I'm going to have to like put the pause on. Um, Especially since I'm like, I don't even know what it is I would do with that degree. I feel like I've come this far. I'm going to see
Mhm.
how far I can go with this particular degree. But having been on that education journey, I think part of what got me through it was, especially being in spaces where there weren't any other Pacific Islanders.
Mm.
Or not a lot of Pacific Islanders. So representation was definitely a huge thing that was lacking for our community in spaces of higher education. And even like some of the schools that I went to for high school and middle school tended to be predominantly white. And so when there were other Pacific Islanders, it was great to have that. But just even thinking of other people of color, like other folks who are Black or Asian or Latinx. Um, Keeping that in mind, I think that's another reason why I'm so grateful for this PI clinicians group. Um, and I'm grateful to the people who started it. I think I remember, if I remember correctly, is like Natalie Asun, Dr. Tai Falave, um, and uh, Saltuali'i, Faunga Molinga, and other folks who were at the very beginning putting this together just before
Mhm.
the pandemic, and then it blowing up to where it is today. And I think I was doing a lot of posting on social media during the pandemic around just sharing mental health resources for folks who are really going through it
Right.
during the pandemic, and making sure that folks knew that the resources that were available for them, both nationally and then locally here in California, and then pushing out information that I knew of for people in other states that may be able to access mental health resources and what that might look like. That's where Manu from the PI Clinicians group had reached out to me and was like, "Hey, I see you're a Pacific Islander clinician. We have this group. We meet virtually, like, once or twice a month. You have to join." And I'm like, "Oh, dude, that sounds amazing." Because even outside of education, being in the work that I've been doing between my when I finished undergraduate in California and working in San Diego, to then moving to New York and then living in Philadelphia and doing a lot of social work and community advocacy, it was mostly with historically excluded and marginalized communities that didn't include ours, right? Like we are
Mm.
part of that group of historically excluded communities. And when I say that, we're talking about communities that were excluded from the conversations around decisions that were being made about how we are able to navigate life, whether it's through employment, through education, through housing, right? Those are the types of things that we have been excluded from or marginalized from. And to not have our community there was always something that was like missing for me, because I always thought growing up that I would well, first I was supposed to go to med school and be a pediatrician, and my goal was like to work for like an urban clinic and provide like free healthcare to children and families who couldn't afford it. But then when I got to college, I learned what a social worker was, and I think that for me was a huge eye opener. Because it really spoke to where my passions lied. And my passions lied in the people that I observed and what they did in my life growing up. And that includes my mom, who, no matter, she was in the military in the US Navy, started off as a nurse, and made her way up through like nursing administration and research. Um, and she came from Samoa in her early 20s, not knowing English, moved to LA where her older sister was living at the time, and then decided to join the military. So, as a brown woman in the military in the 70s, mind you, I was born in 1978. In the 70s, being brown and then not speaking English, and not even that, but speaking Samoan, a language that wasn't very popular at that time, the way it is now. To me, I'm just like, every time, like that's the type of like strength and compassion that I have pulled from my own personal environment, the things that I emulate and the things that I try to uphold in the work that I do, is when I look to my mom as that role model. And every time we moved, every 3 to 4 years, I feel like one of her goals was always to connect with our community. So we were always either in Hawaii or Southern California, and we were always by our family. She's one of nine, and so I'm very close with her siblings. I'm close with my cousins. Like we're as close as like siblings ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, and so we were always close to family, but she also volunteered. Like she made us volunteer at different organizations, whether it was PI organizations or community organizations, to do our part to give back, right? Whatever that looked like, whether it was a soup kitchen or a donation drive, or the Special Olympics. We volunteered with the Special Olympics a couple of times in Coronado. And so it was those types of acts of service that I think my mom just really holds like value so much. And I think that we as a Samoan community also value, right, the acts of service and living in service. And I saw that in my grandmother as well. I saw that for her. I remember people coming to her at church, and people in our community when she would live with us, they would always go to her for advice. They would talk to her and then they would leave coming in, or I'm sorry, they would come into space with her being like up here, right? Like just anxious or angry or frustrated or sad or whatever the emotions that were running really high, they come out of that conversation like back down here. And that to me is like what I used to get to see, with folks in our communities and even folks in our family. My grandmother was just such a, my grandmother Moti Sala Finau was just such a beacon of light and hope, I think, for a lot of people, not just in our family, but also in the communities that we lived in, between Southern California and Hawaii. And um, being able to see that, I think that's really what shaped for me like what it is that I wanted to do. And what I knew what I wanted to do was get back to our community and to do what I could to do that. And so I think the way I moved through different jobs and then through education and then into careers, working to build up spaces where I understood that mental health is such a huge has it plays such a huge role in how we interact with each other, how we move from surviving as a community to thriving as a community. Um, and so I spent a lot of my career working on um, and working in mental health spaces and mental health advocacy, so that I could build up a treasure chest of tools and resources that I can then bring back to my community. And I tie that back to connecting with the PI clinicians because it was because of them that I've been able to speak more on the mental health issues that we face, how we're able to support people in our community, and being mindful of that cultural lens, that that seeking mental health supports in the community might be very difficult for our people in the Pacific Islanders community, because the clinicians that they're seeing aren't like them, right? They don't look like us. They don't understand our cultural values. Don't understand how we grew up. They don't understand the issues that we face. Not just Pacific Islanders here in the diaspora, so like those of us here in the states, but also those of us back home, and what they're experiencing, and how that impacts us, at every generation, right? Every generation is being impacted in one way or another. Our elders are impacted in ways that we may never understand, because the way that they grew up, they may not speak about it the way that we do now. And we have our parents' generation, and then we have our generation, and then we have our our younger siblings, and then the kids, like the grandkids, the great grandkids. They're all experiencing what's happening in life right now, both within our community and outside, in very different ways, and with very different tools and with very different vocabulary. And so I think the Pacifica Mental Health Conference was an amazing start to being able to get everyone on the same page around how we are processing, what is happening to us, so that we can work together, to come up with the tools and resources to support each other, and be able to move forward.
I think the collaboration of the PI clinicians is especially really good for the community because the community sees a group of people, not it's not just isolated to this person here, that person there.
Mhm.
The event in West Sacramento was incredible because everybody got to see kind of the full scope of it. You had gone over some really interesting information, and I kept getting the answers wrong because you had the interactive thing, and I got a couple right, and then a couple I was like, I was sure I was right and I was way off. And it was really eye opening for me to see some of the information that we don't. we're not exposed to, right?
Right.
Hmm.
Like the population of the Melanesian population in the Pacific
Yeah.
was just
Hmm.
where I was blown away. Some of them I got, but most of them I missed, and some of the ones that I missed, I was sure I was right. Like I was positive, and then the answer
Yeah.
came up, and it's not even the one that was next to mine. It was the
Yeah.
far one that I
Yeah.
was off. Talk a little bit about um, that the misperceptions that not just well, but in the Pacific Islander community, because there are all Pacific Islanders in the room, and a lot
Hmm.
of us were getting those answers incorrect. Talk a little bit about the motivation to present that particular information, and
Hmm.
then maybe go through some of the things that we found really eye opening. Because that was one of the big takeaways. The two or three things where I came away and I was like, okay, I need to learn a little bit more. I need to up my game on some of this stuff because I had no idea, or I
Yeah.
wasn't close. I wasn't in the ballpark.
Yeah, so my presentation was on the effects of anti-Blackness and colorism on the mental health of our community.
Mm,
And so a lot of the stats, what I was trying to do in my presentation was to just introduce or not introduce, but to continue the conversation around anti-Blackness and colorism in our community, because that conversation has been going on for a while now. I know that there are content creators on social media who have lifted this up on multiple occasions, even before 2020 and the murder of George Floyd and
Mm.
Sandra Bland, right? The conversation has always been happening, and my goal was to be able to facilitate that conversation, and introduce new information and talk about just the impacts of it, right? Because we go through our lives using words that are sort of outdated to describe someone's ethnicity or background or skin tone,
Mhm.
or words that are outdated to describe someone's mental state, and what I wanted to share again, I think the other piece too was just looking at how here in the United States, right, a lot of the information I shared was based on the work that we do in our communities here in the US. And so here in the US, we tend to be very Polynesian centric, which tends to exclude our brothers and sisters in the Pacific across Oceania, from our islands in Micronesia and Melanesia. And because we tend to be polycentric in how we interact with each other, how we speak about the Pacifica, how we speak about um, our island folks. It's always from the lens of a Polynesian perspective, whether it's a Samoan lens, a Hawaiian lens, or a Tongan lens. Those tend to be like the larger lenses, or the Maori lens that happen to be where we tend to focus. But here in the U.S., again, very Hawaii, Samoa, and Tonga centric. And what I wanted to share, after I had seen this clip from the that Samoan rugby player talking about how black the Pacific is, and he shared that it was like over 80% of the Pacific is black, and he talked about the population of Melanesia. If you put all the islands of Melanesia together and you look at the population there, it far exceeds the populations of Polynesia and Micronesia. And then you look at the population of Pacific Islanders in the US, which is even much smaller than the population of Pacific Islanders across Oceania. And so one of the questions I posed in that pop quiz was, for folks to guess just um, how many folks inhabit Melanesia, like how many people are in Melanesia and the islands that are considered Melanesia. Um, and that number um, is is massive. I think it's the folks in Melanesia make up more than 80% of the total population of folks in Oceania, where Polynesia comes in as a close second, but like a very far close second, right? And then we have our folks in Micronesia. But when we talk about Black in the Pacific, which goes to this organization that my cousin Savali Andrews and I created, with support from folks in our monthly groups and our monthly healing, our monthly heart spaces, where we talk about our experiences as folks who identify as either both Black and Pacific Islander, or our Melanesian brothers and sisters who may be racialized or looked at or treated as Black, here in the US. Um, we created that space because we were talking about how blackness has been erased in our oceanic history. When you have more than 80% of Oceania being people who look darker, who have facial features that are closer to our African ancestors than they do to the modern day Pacific Islanders that have been, and when I say modern day, I mean the ones that are marketed, right? The ones
Yeah.
that media has decided that what a Pacific Islander looks like is this person who is fair skinned, which is wild for people who grew up on, who are children of the sun, right? To be fair skinned, to have long, wavy hair, to have a thin stature for women, and then muscular sort of military style bodies for men. It's wild that this is how we got here as far as looking at the populations that we speak about in the Pacific. And so with our organization, where our goal is to shift that narrative around blackness in the Pacific, to undo some of that erasure of blackness in our communities,
Mhm.
by lifting up the history that we all have, the shared history, and reminding people that if we're talking about Oceania, if we're talking about the Pacific as our whole community is majority Melanesian, or is going to be majority dark skin. It's going to be majority folks that don't look like the cookie cutter stereotype of what a Pacific Islander looks like in the American context. Um, and so, in that conversation that we were having at the PI Mental Health Conference, um, the I brought that up to just really give folks an idea just of our geography, of like who we are as people with the Pacific, and then open the door to having more conversations around the way folks have heard people talk about other Pacific Islanders with dark skin tones, right? And when I say people, I'm talking like the people, the way they've heard their parents speak about other people, other Pacific Islanders with darker skin tones or kinky curly hair, or the way their grandparents did, the way their aunties and uncles, the way their friends do at school, or maybe bully those kids who may have darker skin tones or may not fit the ideal standard of what a Pacific Islander looks like. I wanted to give folks that context around it's more than just us, and that we are leaving out a huge portion of our community
Mhm.
because of these white supremacy cultural characteristics that have told us since colonization, that the white Eurocentric styles of beauty are what we should be aspiring to, and so that we should be using those lightening creams to make yourself lighter and more presentable and more likable to a potential partner and a potential family, right? Because you're not even marrying this person, you're marrying their entire family, and so everyone's going to have input or say, or have something to
Mhm.
say about the partners that you bring into your families. Um, and we talk about how what is the mental health impact of what it means to hear these things in the community, to hear these things from your own family. People are supposed to love you and protect you, right, and care for you, when they're over here talking negatively about people who look like you. And if they're saying that about them, what are they saying about you, or how are they defending you against other people who talk about you the same way?
Mm.
And that can have a really negative impact on your mental health when we think about, as for young kids, they're still on this journey of trying to figure out what their identity is, who they are as, as Jason Finau. What does that mean for me? It means like who my family is. It means like, do we have what our socioeconomic status is, where, what our neighborhood is, who I am as a student or an athlete, or a bookworm, right? Like, what are the different things about me? What my sexuality is, what religion I want to be a part of that speaks to me. Um, a number of things come into play when we're young, and when we are met with uh, negative stereotypes like anti-blackness and colorism in our community by people that we love, we tend to then make ourselves or try to shrink ourselves so that we don't catch any strays, right? Like we're not catching
Mm.
anything from other people, so that they're not noticing that I'm black, that I can present as black in our community, and that I am not Samoan enough, or Samoan period, because of the color of my skin. And that can really have an effect on people, again, body image. Like people have low self-esteem, those who are dark and have been told to stay out of the sun, will look to lightening creams and these harsh chemicals to lighten their skin so that they can blend in and assimilate into this culture that is in itself, the culture in itself is trying to assimilate into this white culture. And so we're losing a lot in that process. We talk about our hair, people who want to straighten their hair so they can not be talked about in and being associated with the negative stereotypes that we have attached to what blackness is here in America. And then also our weight, like that's another way you see folks who end up becoming anorexic or having eating disorders because what they can control is their body shape, right? And if they can be skinny enough, then maybe that will give them the privileged pass to be able to avoid any kind of comments or negativity because of the color of their skin. I think the other piece that I was going to share too is depression, anxiety.
Mm.
People who end up, going no contact with family because they've been hurt so bad that they no longer can feel safe within their family, and because of that, they may not feel safe in our entire community. And so then they, excommunicate themselves from our Pacific Islander community, and now we're losing people over something that means nothing when it comes to how we survive and thrive in this day and age. And I'm talking about not just folks who identify or may look like, but also parents of, right, the parents of these children who may either identify as Black and Pacific Islander or have that dark skin or impacted by anti-Blackness and colorism. Those parents may choose to excommunicate themselves from their families and our community. And so now we're losing like branches of families away from our community when we need them the most to continue the legacies of our cultural legacies, to continue our cultural legacies, right? And then not have children 2, 3 generations down the road who are Samoan, regardless of whether or not their mom was Samoan or their grandma or their great grandma. If someone was Samoan in your family, you were Samoan. And for people
Mhm.
to feel that, to understand that generations from now, and still have a connection to what it means to be Samoan. Because who knows, generations from now, Samoa could be in the ocean, the way that we're going with the climate crisis right now.
Yeah.
As right, with so many of our
Right.
islands, like we don't know what that's going to look like, and so we need to be thinking about how are we treating our current generations so that, and then thinking ahead about our future generations so that they can feel connected, that they feel like they belong, that they feel like there are trusted adults that they can go to, because that speaks to the data points I think I shared during my conversation was that the number one leading cause of death for our NHPI youth between 15 and 24 is suicide.
Suicide.
And suicide, how do we get to the point where our youth feel like they are just so hopeless, and feeling so hopeless in life that the only option is to end their life? And that comes from, and I'm not saying it's specifically around anti-Blackness or colorism, but I introduced this because those are things that can add to a person wanting to commit suicide because of the fact that they experience that negative behavior, and then they add that onto other things. What if they are Black and Pacific Islander and they're LGBTQ and they don't feel safe at the church, so now they don't go to church, they don't have a religion that they associate with the way that their families do, right? There are a number of different identities that intersect, that can really impact the way that we see ourselves for who we are, and then the way that the community, the world sees us for who we are, and then how we decide which image, which identity remains true, the one that we want to keep true to in order to keep ourselves safe. And I think that's a huge reason why I wanted to bring up this conversation during the Pacifica Mental Health Conference, because it was a great way for me to combine both of my worlds, the world of mental health and the work that I've been doing over these years, as well as the work that my cousin and I have been doing, along with some amazing humans uh, that around Black Pacific Alliance.
I love it. I love it. And I always think that as the generations are here in the US, that it gets better with colorism, but it's different in a different, as the generations they're smarter now, they're more aware of our surroundings. Like for years, people were saying Meuli, right? Black
Mhm.
thing. And now, somebody woke up, like we've been saying that for years. And then finally somebody said, that's not right, and it's like
Mhm.
we really thought before it was just like describe, I guess to the older generation, they were just describing, I want to say being lazy about,
Mhm.
just describing people. And then now we're starting to understand, okay, we need to change this. It's not right. And so we're starting
Mhm.
to communicate and understand what the words mean and how we change what we're talking about, how we say things. So I
Mhm.
think it's still a struggle, but we're learning
Hmm.
differently and in a better way. So I like that, and that opened my eyes during the PI clinician with your conversation. I was like, we used to say a lot of things that we didn't think. Oh, we're gonna say meuli, right? Just and then not
Hmm.
thinking that it was wrong until somebody said, hello, it's wrong," And so it really opened my eyes into that conversation, which I loved your presentation. It just and then to what really got me was the population of Melanesian is like 80% of the Pacific. And it's because, Polynesians are thrown in social media and in TV. Then you think this is what a Pacific Islander looks like is Hawaiian, Samoan, Tongan, when really, no, we're a mix of everything. You just don't
Hmm.
see it. You just don't see it. So I really appreciated your presentation because it kept opening my eyes every time your slide went up. And I was like, yeah,
You
yes,
know,
yes.
an example of that is um, a lot of people. So Fiji just passed away. God rest his
Hmm.
soul, rest in
Right.
love. A lot of people, and I didn't think about this until recently, since the last day or two. A lot of people referred to him as, "Oh, that Polynesian singer," right? Because
Mhm.
Hmm.
it's gotta fit the way the narrative of what, and it's not even a bad thing for non-Pacific Islanders to say, "Oh, he's Polynesian," because that's what they see,
That's
like
all
the
they know.
Moana series,
Hmm.
the Avatar, the new Jason Momoa movie, like that's what Hollywood presents, so they think all Islanders are Polynesian. But that the piece that you're talking about, that's just the way that media paints everything. So that's the box we try to put everything in. The images have to fit to your description earlier, has to fit the model that we think we know, we think we understand. It's really hard to unprogram that. Is the focus on the upcoming generations to try to not make the bad habits, or is the focus holistic? You're trying to get to all the generations to push the education.
I would say holistic. I don't think that we younger generations aren't going to be able to see to meet the goals or reach the goals that they would hope for when we think about how we speak and how we move within our communities about mental health and about anti-Blackness or colorism, or about the way that we talk about, or the way we still talk about our LGBTQ plus communities. It's going to be on all of us. It has to be a holistic approach, because I don't think it's fair to assume that our elder generations don't have the capacity to make change. If they want to change, if they want to do better for their kids, for their grandkids, for their great grandkids, then I hope that they are open to making the changes and like hearing the things that are going on, and like not just hearing it, but like actively doing something about it, right? So if it's, one of the things I talked about as a strategy for addressing anti-Blackness or colorism in just your everyday life is when you are hearing comments like somebody say, "Oh, so and so don't go into the sun for too long, you'll get too dark," right?
Mm.
So cover up, cover up. But if you're hearing that from somebody else saying it, then there's an opportunity for you to pause that conversation and be like, "Oh, hey, um,
Why?
why would you say that?" The sun, like, we are children of the sun, our kids should be soaking it up. This is what our ancestors did. I don't know why is it bad now, but it wasn't bad for them. Um, and we know because of colonialism and
Mm. Mhm.
white supremacy cultural characteristics that we are saying it's bad now because it goes against what white people have said that we should look like,
Mm.
how we should look like, right? So it goes against that, and I think that part of what I also learned and what I took back from the community in that conversation that we had in West Sacramento was that our elders are wanting to make those changes, but we have to give them space and we have to give them
Mhm.
grace to make mistakes. As they are learning, it may take a little bit longer for them to get to where the kids now, like where their grandkids or great grandkids are, because their kids started at a different place. Right.
Yeah.
If we're thinking about this as a track race, like they're starting at different blocks in that heat. And so when our if our grandparents and great grandparents are starting like way in the back and the great grandkids are starting up here, they have a better chance of understanding what it is that makes the way that we used to speak or the cultural practices that we adopted to try to assimilate into white culture, why that is so problematic now, and how we as a community could be moving back to the way that our ancestors moved, right? How they worked and lived and were in community with each other. Because when we think
Mhm.
about grief and loss, when we think about celebrations within our community, we had systems in place to support our loved ones when things like that happened. Like if someone's parent passed away, the community came together in ways
Mhm.
that we are not able to in America and in a white supremacy cultural system. But if we look at how our communities back home are able to do it because they are still closer to what our ancestors did than we are here, you can see that that is, something that is built in, right? They didn't need a word, a specific word like we do here with like self-care or community
Mhm.
care or like, all the jargon that's going around right now with mental health. Is that jargon, is it helpful now because we can actually assign a term to a feeling, to an action, so that we can communicate what that looks like for us and our communities to other communities? Absolutely. But like how we use that language, and how we interpret that language, this Western language, into our respective cultural languages, whether it's Samoan, whether it's Fijian, whether it's um, Maori, like how we translate that, I think, is how we work together from a holistic standpoint, right? Intergenerationally, is the
Mhm.
youth helping the elder generation to understand where we are now, and the youth being patient with the older generation to get to where the youth are now, and the youth being patient with the older generation so that they can get there. Because if we meet each other with frustration, and misunderstanding, then we're not going to move anywhere. We're not moving that needle at all. So I think that was one thing that came out of that
Yeah.
conversation, was just the space and the grace to learn something that you didn't know before,
Mm.
and
Mhm.
being comfortable in not knowing what you didn't know before, because it's not your fault. That isn't a personal failing of yours, right? This is a systemic issue, and we need to come together as a community to address that issue.
I love that. I love it. And I love the starting blocks like in a race. There's that I just love it. I love it. I love that explanation. And to
Can I
have
say,
patience.
I,
I
I
love it.
wanted I wanted to add to your comment about meuli and how we don't use that term anymore, right? Like we've shifted away from that and have
Mhm.
learned that there are a number of ways for us to identify folks who may be Black or African. And for me, like I was part of that generation that grew up identifying as meuli. And
Mhm.
I remember like emblazoned in my mind, I was studying abroad in New Zealand at the University of Auckland. And I was taking a Samoan studies course, and met some friends in there. And one of the women in the class with me also went to a local Key church, which is what I grew up in.
Mhm.
And so she invited me to go to church on a Sunday because, in New Zealand, don't have any family. And I do have the friends that I've made in the group that was a part of. And so being able to like reconnect with my community out there, being so far away from my family back home in California, was something that I was hungry for. And so I was excited to go to church with her. And when at the end of church, she was introducing me to like her family and some other friends there, and I think at the beginning, and when I was talking to her parents, she was letting them know like, oh, I'm Samoan and I'm from America, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm Meuli, and this is where I'm from, and I mean, you could hear a pin drop, and you had to catch people's mouths from the ground because they all looked at me just like, and I was like, "What word don't you use here?" And they're like, "We don't use male. That's a derogatory term." And I was all like, "I'm over here in a whole other country, all right, in the South Pacific, and this is the first time I'm learning of this. I'm like
Wow.
21 or 22 when I'm in this program, and in the 21, 22 years of my life." Growing up in the Samoan community, in the Pacific Islander community, not once did anyone ever tell me that it could be considered a derogatory term. It didn't even dawn on me that when you break down the word meoli, it being a black thing, right?
Mhm.
It didn't even dawn on me because my first language is Samoan. I don't speak as much as I used to now. I understand more than I speak, but like with that being in my vocabulary and not really putting those things together, it just reminds me of like how we like future current generations can look at language and have sort of like the hindsight to understand like how some of this language that we're using now that our ancestors have been using since colonization may be problematic because of its ties to white supremacy and
Mm.
colonization. And so I think about that every time. Just like, and I had to call my mom as soon as I got home. And I was like, Mom, did you know? She was all like, yeah, but and I was like, ah, man. I was embarrassed. I was so embarrassed for myself because I was all
Mm.
like, oh my God, I just called myself what in here in New Zealand. And like, and then I was like, oh my God, New Zealand is just so like ahead of their time. Like, how cool
I
are they?
know. They are so way ahead in their time, even we always talk about because in media, we're like, they have their own programming, they have their own TV station, they have their
Hmm.
we just it's but, we
They're
learn
like
every day. We learn every day. I
they're
love
like the
it.
Wakanda of the Pacific.
Yes. I mean, the whole I wish we could go through the whole thing. I loved your it was one of well, all the presentations that
Hmm.
day were really but yours was really my number one. And, they were all like
Well,
one and a half, one, everybody was number one. But I really learned a lot from you and it really opened my mind. So thank you. Thank you for doing that. What is next for you? What do you is there what are you doing? What's going on?
So my cousin and I are still working. Black Pacific Alliance is still a fledgling organization, and so we're working on building up programming to expand this conversation. Again, with trying to shift the narrative around Blackness in the Pacific, and so we're hoping to launch our Rooted Resilience project, which is a storytelling project for folks to share their experiences with anti-Blackness and colorism in our communities, and then turn around and share those experiences, whether on social media or whatnot, and then share that out with the artist community. And in an ideal
Mm,
world, having these artists in whatever medium that they work in, whether it's poetry, it's music, right, or if it's like painting, like listening to these stories and creating art based on that, so
mm,
that we can give our community and the world a different ways to experience what other folks are sharing, to
mm,
experience the stories that our community is sharing about their respective experiences. Whether that's someone who identifies as Black and Pacific Islander or of Melanesian background or descent, or a family member of someone who they remember being bullied or talked about because of the color, how dark their skin was. Um, and or the parents of children who are Black and Pacific Islander, the PI parents of children who are Black and Pacific Islander, and sharing their stories of the experiences that they went through, having being in a relationship with someone who was Black, and then having a child who is Black and Pacific Islander. Um, that is one of our bigger projects that we hope to get off the ground in the next year or two, and then facilitate a homecoming event for all folks who identify as Black and Pacific Islander and Melanesian, to gather and learn more from each other. And eventually take that and make it bigger to its own conference and talk more about the history of our Pacific, and like really bringing people together across our islands to have to just really share in the rich cultural history of the Pacific. Um, as a means of, again, shifting that narrative of Blackness in the Pacific. And then on the other side, the mental health side, my goal is to continue working with the PI clinicians group, and ideally having a second Pacifica Mental Health Conference and making that an annual thing, and connecting with PI organizations here in the US and abroad, so that we can maybe have a centralized a central location for resources that PIs can access from anywhere in the world. So if you are a PI that is in California and maybe moving to Arkansas, or a PI in Tennessee, and maybe moving to Washington, and it might need mental health supports, like here are the organizations that are providing those services, and here are the parameters of who can receive those services, right, whether it's age or zip codes, things of that nature, and being able to connect people, PIs who are in parts of the country here in the US that don't have very large PI populations, and so they may not have access to PI clinicians in their neighborhoods or in their communities. And so having that having the having a space where they can go to get information on what PI clinicians can provide telehealth and are licensed
mm.
in your state, whether it's Missouri or
Mm.
Florida or Wyoming, wherever our PIs are in the US. ideally giving them access to PI clinicians who can understand where they're coming from and help them to navigate a lot of the issues or concerns that are plaguing them and keeping them from being able to really thrive in their world.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. I'm gonna be stalking your page. I'm gonna be stalking. If people want to get a hold of you, and I do, I know how to get a hold of you. But if people that are watching, if they want to get a hold of you, how can they find you on social media?
So you can check Black Pacific Alliance out at on IG at B underscore or sorry, lowercase BP underscore alliance. We post on there regularly, and you can always DM us through there. Or you can also email me at jfinau at Pacific Alliance Pacific blackpacificalliance.org. jfinau at blackpacificalliance.org. Um, and yeah, I think those would be the two easiest ways to get a hold of me. So if you are with a PI organization and would like to partner together to do more workshops to expand on the conversations around mental health in general, and then how the impacts of anti-Blackness and colorism on the mental health of our communities, please reach out to me. I'm happy to connect and do what I can to support the respective communities that you all are a part of.
Awesome. Thank you so
Amazing.
much. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. We know you have a busy schedule, so we will let you go. But thank you so much for joining us. And I'll send you email after. But
Sounds good.
we appreciate your time, and God bless you.
Thank you,
Carl,
Jason.
Naki, thank you both so much just for your support of the Pacifica Mental Health Conference. I know without you guys, I don't think we would have had as many people just like spreading the word and sponsoring the event. So I just wanted to thank you again also just
Oh
for,
no, thank
without
Oh,
you.
folks like
Thank you.
you, we wouldn't be able to have that space to have the conversation. So very grateful.
you're
Thank
welcome.
you. Thank
And
you so much.
we love to just be part of it. It's a
Yes.
movement,
Good.
and we can be part of it. However, we're part of it. We're glad to be. So thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good
Awesome.
evening. We'll
Yeah,
talk to
same
you
to you too.
soon. Take care.
Bye.
Oh my gosh. He's so awesome.
There's a
Ooh, I have
driven young man.
he's oh my gosh. He's so badass. He's like I could just listen to him. Like I could have went another hour or so because of everything that I'm learning. I continue to learn from him. I mean, all the clinicians there at the Pacifica PI health clinician conference, everyone was so good, but I really learned a lot
Yeah,
from
his was
his,
the one where
conversation.
I was like eye opening. Like there was points where because I was sitting next to Mona,
Mhm.
and Mona would look over like, "Did you get that right?" "Nope, I didn't get that
No,
one right,"
yeah.
and I missed it by a whole bunch. So it was one of those presentations where I was like,
Mhm.
I it opened my eyes to. But I mean, the same way with like,
Yes.
Fiji, right? People think he's a Polynesian singer.
Mm.
He's a Pacific Islander singer,
Yeah.
but he's not Polynesian. Or
Yeah.
I remember for the longest time, I just considered Jimmy Snuka, right? As,
Mhm.
oh, he's Poly. He's
Yeah.
Fijian, right?
Yes.
But
Yeah.
that's the box. That's the media
That's
box
the box that
that everybody's
every
got to fit, right?
everybody's
Even
put.
if it's not accurate.
I love it. I love you. Jason, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I really appreciate and he's so nice. He's so nice. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It was a great conversation. I like I said, I could have listened to him talk for another forever.
Mhm.
So yeah, thank you, Jason, for joining us. Please follow him on social media if you have any questions. If you're interested in mental health in the Pacifica community and the Black and Pacific Islander community, please follow him. Ask him questions. He's awesome. He responds to because I message him and he responds. I love that. So follow him on social media. Get all your questions answered and join the conversation. Join the conversation. Oh, that was awesome.
Learn.
That was awesome. Learn, learn, learn. And I'm old, so when something makes me think, it really, really sticks. So there you go. That is it for us tonight. I'm so grateful for the conversation. Thank you for our new background, Carl. We
Hey,
have a new
it
background
works.
if you haven't noticed. And you'll see it every week now. There might be a different one. Yeah, there might be a different one. Anything else you want to get out before we go?
That's a wrap.
That's
Rest
a
in
wrap,
peace.
folks.
Rest in love, Fiji.
Yes, rest in love, Fiji, the legend. We're here every Thursday at 6 p.m. Come back to FICO with us.